Allegiance. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get the roll call, please?
Eric Alderetti, Phil Becerra, Bruce Bauer,
Here.
James Gartner,
Here.
Sean Mill,
Here.
Mark McLaughlin,
Here.
Lynette Verino.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. This is a portion of the meeting for public comments that are not on the agenda. Does anyone have any comments not on the agenda? If so, please fill out one of these forms. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve items on the consent calendar this time? Or any discussion? I know there was an email for some clarification, so.
Well, I'll address the. It seems that Ms. Barella and Hassan received an email in regards to our minutes of the last meeting, in which a member of the public, Mr. Dave Hohen, asked for some corrections to be made regarding agenda item 3. He made reference to Mr. Sam Romero. If I could just, we don't need to make any corrections there because Mr. Romero is appointed by the Logan Neighborhood Association as a representative. He's also on the board of directors of the Santa Ana Business Council, on the board of directors of the Orange County Community Housing Corporation, which is located here in Santa Ana. So I don't see that we need to make any corrections there. However, as Mr. Hohen did correctly point out, Mr. Becerra's name showed up in the minutes twice, voting yes twice on the same item. So I would move that we approve the minutes with the exception of on item number 7. We just show that Mr. Becerra voted aye once.
Is there any further discussion or a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. So I'd like to move on to the business calendar, and we have the first item on that is the draft capital improvement program fiscal year. You've got the floor.
Good evening, Chair and Council or committee members. I'm Jason Gabriel with the Public Works Agency. I have a quick presentation for you on the proposed capital improvement program for next fiscal year. This is a draft document. We're going to be out in the community a lot, and you'll see the calendar that we have to get input. So we are definitely looking for input from you and from the community at large. Some successes we've had in the last year. We have a couple of safety improvements. The Maple Bike Trail bulb out project that makes it safer to cross the various streets that bike trail intersects along its course. Also, the Grand Avenue improvements, which incorporate better walkability, bikes, as well as it was widened from 2 to 3 lanes between 1st and 4th. We have some low impact development improvements at Morrison Park with some bioswale that was implemented there. And at our zoo, we introduced a new exhibit. We added an ocelot at the zoo. So that was a pretty nice project to complete. Looking forward, right now we're at about $50.5 million for next fiscal year for the capital improvement program, broken down into 4 major categories. We have street improvements for just over $20 million, $5 million in traffic, over $18 million in utility, drainage, and lighting, and just under $6 million for city facility improvements. Looking at those in a little more detail, it all starts with planning. We're focused on making sure that the projects we implement are based on some planning aspect, looking at prioritizing projects, looking at what is the best use for our dollars, and always factoring in walkability, mobility, and safety. So we have our pavement management system, our project development, which looks at grants, and our right-of-way management. Also, we have a number of roadway projects to maintain our streets. We have alleys, the major arterial streets and local streets, as well as some neighborhood, and then some improvements on Bristol Street. We have 3 active projects on Bristol where we're going to be improving that corridor, and then we're looking to begin Warner improvements, and then some sidewalk and concrete improvements there for $5.2 million. In the traffic category, again, it goes back to planning. We're looking at bike opportunities. We're looking at safety opportunities, and the planning side of that is looking at that. We have a number of traffic signal projects, new and modified signals and synchronized signals throughout the city for just over $1 million. Again, I keep going back to it, mobility and safety. We have 8 projects there, a number of safe routes to schools to make the paths to schools safer. We have crosswalk upgrades. We're looking at like the pedestrian heads to have the countdowns, and a number of bike lane projects on Edinger, Santa Ana Boulevard, and 5th Street. And then the last category there is ongoing support for the OC streetcar. Now that OCTA is the lead agency, Public Works is the lead in providing oversight from the city's perspective, and we're coordinating with all the agencies. Under water and sewer, our water department actually provides the planning component to this, but we're Public Works and my group, we're actually the implementers. So we have 2 projects for $2 million for sewer, 4 projects for $3.5 million around town. For $3.5 million, we have some water facility. We have a sewer lift station, a pump station, and some well improvements, and then also street light improvements. We're continuing to pursue the purchase of LED street lights, actually purchase Southern California Edison's lights and then convert them to LED. And the cost savings between the existing lights and the LED helps to fund that program. Looking at city facilities, we have recreation and then park facilities and zoo facilities, a number of projects in our parks center. Actually, that's the Center Street Urban Greening. That's a project over at, I can't recall the park, but Dan Young, we're adding 2 synthetic turf fields. Riverview, Caprio Park in Windsor, some sidewalk resurfacing, and some new playground equipment in various areas. We're looking at improvements to the facilities at Angels Park, Pacific Electric Bike Trail, security lighting, and security cameras, so security and safety at the parks. And then finally, at the zoo, we are looking at a new facility there to provide a quarantine facility and zoo care. So looking forward next year, we're looking at about 97 lane miles of roadway improvements. We're looking at about 3 miles of water and sewer pipeline, 6 miles of bike lanes or routes that will be implemented. We're looking at 7 signal modification locations, and we're beginning the process of converting the medians to drought-tolerant landscaping. So we'll have $1 million project there, and then the water savings will look to convert more of those medians over time to meet the governor's executive order. All of these projects go into our CIP project tracking system. This is available on the website for anybody to see the status of any specific project at any time. I mentioned that we're doing extensive outreach. So far, we've done a CIP update and outreach presentation. Back in February, we did a Sunshine Ordinance budget outreach meeting at the end of March. Today, here we are, Planning Commission. We have a trial budget for City Council on the 19th of this month. We have a number of community budget hearings throughout April, and then we'll be looking to meet with the council members, and then the city manager will present his budget on May 17th. We have tentative adoption on June 7th. Final reading of that ordinance would be June 21st, and then we kick off next year, July 1st, with a new fiscal year. And that concludes my presentation.
Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Bauer?
I do have a question. You're with Public Works?
Correct.
I just had a question that's sort of maybe a little off topic, and tell me if it is. But is it my understanding that the city isn't watering the medians right now?
That is correct.
So, because I mean, it looks like a lot of the trees are starting to die.
There's an executive order by the governor of the state of California that we cannot water turf medians any longer. That's not allowed. So we're in the process. We're actually putting a project out to bid here in the next week or so to bid out $1 million worth of those improvements, and then we'll make that conversion and be able to have the drought-tolerant landscaping in those medians rather than just nothing.
It wasn't my understanding that was an executive order. I thought that was just the city.
No. Every city, everywhere. This is a state executive order that we have to comply with.
Very good. Thank you.
I have actually a comment. I like the bike lanes, so the paint job on the bike lanes. It's very pleasant. It's upbeat. It tells you which way to ride your bike. Some people don't know that.
Sure.
And it's been, I think it's really been a nice improvement. All throughout town, noticed it quite a bit, and seeing another 6 miles to go is really great. So that's very nice. I also had a comment on the medians because quite a bit of work was done on Bristol Street, for example. And it's quite kind of a shame. a lot of it can't be watered at all, I guess. So I don't know. So the $1 million you're talking about, is that to maybe do some tree watering type of thing, or some other systems, or?
It's actually to remove the turf and to put in alternative plant material.
Okay.
And then the irrigation system would be modified
To handle that.
to that specific plant palette. And we have about I believe a $5 million need, but right now we only have $1 million budget, so it's going to be phased in over time.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Commissioner?
I think, though, there are a couple of medians that are not necessarily included in that. I mean, Flower Street and Oakmont Street are in the neighborhoods, and those medians are not being watered, but the plan is not to make those drought tolerant.
That I don't know. I'd need to speak to
Yeah, I believe
our
there's-
maintenance folks about that, but yeah, I don't know the specific plan for that specific
I
median.
believe those are different. I think the ones that, like Bristol, the idea is to look at drought tolerant, where they're on a street like Bristol. We need to
Well,
get some clarity.
again, at this point, my understanding is that it's an executive order by the governor that we're not
No,
allowed. So I don't know what.
I get that. I'm
Yeah.
not contesting that statement.
Sure.
That statement is a factual, correct statement. What I'm saying is that there are two medians, one Flower Street, one in Oakmont, which is in Park Santiago, which I don't think those are being planned to be made drought tolerant. I think those are planned to be looked at from a different perspective.
Okay,
That's all. I'm
sounds
just
good.
raising the point.
Okay.
Commissioner?
Jason, I noticed that there's 4 parks that are getting security cameras. I think that's a great idea. But I also noticed on there that there's a bathroom renovation at Angels Park.
Correct.
So is there a reason why we're not putting security cameras there when we're, improving the restroom? Because I know there's some issues over there as well.
I know that Parks had targeted specific parks for the security lighting. I don't know what criteria they used to establish that criteria. I could definitely check with them and find out and get back to you on why it's not included at Angels Park.
Because I think that it would be a good idea if we're going to make renovations to the bathroom and, spruce that up, that it might be, the perfect time to put those security cameras at that facility as well, because
Sure.
it may be slated for, another year for the cameras, but if we're going to do renovations, I hate to see those, go downhill and the security cameras come
Sure.
after the fact.
Sure, great comment. Thank you for sharing, and we'll definitely get back with Parks on that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bauer?
I'm sorry, I did have another comment on the medians. What's the Public Works attitude, or what are they doing in terms of irrigating with groundwater? I know the city doesn't really have a system underway. I know it does for a small part of the city.
Correct.
But what are they doing in terms of capital improvements when, Bristol, for example, when that was improved, brown water should have went in there. When the street was opened up, that was an opportunity, a missed opportunity in my mind. What is Public Works doing now going forward to implement and to put in brown water systems wherever possible? Because brown water you could still use that, right? If we had that for the medians, for example.
Sure. The county actually maintains the reclaimed water lines that are in the city, and we have tapped into them for like the Flower Street Bike Trail project that was recently completed. So all along that corridor, we've used it there. But the infrastructure is limited. So we would have to look to the county to partner with them to look at opportunities to expand that infrastructure, but at this point, we haven't been leveraging that. You're correct.
Well, what I'd urge is that when we have opportunities like Bristol, wherever we have a street improvement, that's the opportunity. And that's not going to come along but once in a, very rare occasion.
Understood, and again, that infrastructure is very limited, so in a lot of cases, it may be cost prohibitive to go from where the existing infrastructure is to where our projects are, but like I said, definitely that's a great comment. We'll look for those opportunities, and where there's a cost benefit to do it appropriately, we can look at definitely looking at that.
All right.
Commissioner McLaughlin?
I've got a couple things. Just to follow on that, the other side of the equation is a number of cities are looking at deep root watering, and that's another possibility that could be put in there instead of, changing it to go to a brown water system or anything like that. Deep root watering has been the system. Anaheim's doing that right now, and so is Claremont. And, that's a good one to go after the trees and things like that and the medians and things. My question has to do with the Warner Industrial Community Park. There's a project there that's going to be drainage and lighting and sewerage and things like that. Is that going to include that whole area being repaved?
That's the focus of the Warner Industrial Community Assessment District, which passed at the last council meeting. The improvements are to share the costs with the business owners or the property owners there of the street paving. While we're doing that, however, we have the opportunity of the pavement being open, so we're going to introduce any necessary water and sewer upgrades at this time, rather than coming back later and cutting those new streets. So first we're going to do water and sewer, and then we'll follow it up with the street pavement.
So there is going to be eventually street pavement done?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any additional comments or questions? Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason.
Before we go into the public hearing items, do any of the commissioners have any disclosures on agenda items? We need to file, draft and file. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a motion and a second for the receive and file of the...
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. Thank you for reminding me. I had that in my head. It was receive and file, and then realized that vote too. Any communication disclosure? Commissioner Mill.
Maybe you can help me with the date.
Because we have the same date.
324.
All three of us had the same. On March 24th, I met with Sandy Gottlieb in regards to item number 5 on the agenda. We met out at the location, just going over the specifics of the project. It was myself and Commissioner Gardner.
I also met with Sandy and with Commissioner Mill the same time, the same day.
And I followed him 5 minutes later.
So we passed on it.
We did. No, we shook hands in the parking lot.
Any other disclosures? Any other agenda items? Thank you, Vice Chair Mill, for reminding us on that. So the first item, this is a time and place for the public hearing. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please fill a request to speak form with the Secretary. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, which I will enforce. 3 minutes. We have a long agenda. Unless an extension of time is granted by the chairman. The action of the Planning Commission is final, following consent of the City Council, unless, if allowed by the Santa Ana Municipal Code, an appeal to the City Council is filed with the clerk of the council, and a copy is sent to the Planning Department within 10 days from the date of the Commission's action, or unless set for a public hearing by the City Council. Is staff ready for a presentation on item number 1?
Thank you, Chairman Gartner. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Up for review tonight is the McFadden Place Regional Plan Sign Program. This is RSPG number 2016-1 for the property located at 1421 South Village Way. This project proposes to construct a new electronic message display pylon sign, also known as a digital sign, to replace an existing defunct reader board sign that has existed for many years at the project site. This sort of project requires approval of a regional planned sign program by the Planning Commission to replace an existing, recently approved planned sign program at the site. This is the site. It is currently zoned SD 85 for the McFadden Place, and it is surrounded by a variety of commercial and industrial uses, the Low Sand Corridor Railroad tracks to the south, and the Costa Mesa Freeway to the east. This is the site plan for the integrated center. The proposed pylon sign will be constructed in the same spot as the existing reader board sign, as indicated by item A on the site plan. No other changes are proposed to the existing signage at the center as part of this regional plan sign program. These site photos show the site as it appears today. There's a variety of predominantly one-story and a two-story building at the site. The existing pylon sign is located, or is shown on this slide at the bottom left, and recently constructed monument signage as part of this sign program is shown on the center bottom and bottom right. These renderings show the proposed pylon sign as it would appear from the Costa Mesa Freeway. And these elevations show the proposed sign. It would contain an 8-foot by 25-foot electronic message display just below where the term McFadden Place is written on the sign. The sign would also contain several panels for tenants, static panels, followed by the term Santa Ana at the bottom. And this slide shows the sign lighting, indicating compliance with the Santa Ana Municipal Code maximum of 0.3 foot candle brightness over ambient light conditions in the vicinity of the digital sign. So the project, the sign has been designed to comply with the city's ordinance for electronic message displays. The brightness and technology employed will mitigate any distractions or any hazards that could be created by digital signage to motorists or individuals in the vicinity. No other changes to the existing sign program are proposed at this time. The project only entails replacement of the sign program with a regional plan sign program to accommodate the proposed electronic message display pylon. And the photo simulations and the light studies provided by the applicant show that the sign will comply with the maximum ambient light thresholds that are contained within the Santa Ana Municipal Code. Based on this analysis, staff recommends approval of RSPG number 2016-1. Be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Bauer.
Ali, are there any conditions regarding the hours of operation? I know when we approved the one for Tom's Trucks, are there?
There are no proposed conditions for the hours of operation for the sign.
'Cause it did impose them, did we not, for Tom's Truck?
They're done on a case-by-case basis. For Tom's Trucks, I don't recall the condition being present. For Main Place Mall, there was no condition on the hours of operation for those signs, so it's on a case-by-case basis.
What's the criteria for that? I mean, is that because I know with Tom's there was a surrounding neighborhood that might have been impacted, is that?
That's correct. It's contextually based. For this site, because of the nature of the site being surrounded primarily by industrial and commercial uses to the north, south, and west, and then the large expanse of the Costa Mesa Freeway to the east, and the existing sound wall that separates the freeway from the residential uses, as well as the design of the sign at 60 feet instead of, let's say, 80 feet like Main Place Mall's proposed signs. There was no condition proposed to limit the hours of operation.
And then the other comment I had was at the bottom of the sign, the Santa Ana. I mean, it looks, from the rendering, it looks very small. I mean, to the point that you can't hardly see it in the rendering. And I don't know if you can put that up, but I don't know if there's any way to indicate. I mean, when we're approving this, we're approving the rendering, so we don't know what the. I mean, can we indicate the font size? I mean, personally, I'd like it bigger, along the lines, the one that we approved at Tom's.
Sure. As proposed on the elevations in the staff report packet, the individual letters would be approximately 1 foot 2 inches tall, so this would be 14 inches.
Do you have any idea what in comparison, the one on Tom's, how big? I mean,
I wouldn't be able to speculate at
Okay.
this time.
Commissioner Mill.
I notice on it says, I actually would prefer to say City of Santa Ana. And then I notice on yours, it does say that, but in our book, it just says Santa Ana. So do we know?
The correct version, thank you for pointing that out. The correct version is what's provided in your staff report packet, which
One
is,
that just says Santa Ana?
that's correct. Staff asked that they not have the phrase City of Santa Ana because it might lead to the impression that it's representing the city organization with a capital C, whereas Santa Ana is more just geographic.
Okay.
Mr.
What was
McLaughlin.
approved- That's what was approved for Main Place Mall and for Tom's Trucks, Santa Ana, correct?
Yes, I can say, I wasn't the case planner for Tom's Trucks, but the Main Place Mall signs just say
Says
Santa Ana.
Right.
Yeah.
Commissioner Miller.
In terms of the lettering, the other lettering, you said the scale for Santa Ana in comparison to the lettering for the other lines, is it smaller, the same?
As proposed, the letters for Santa Ana would be 14 inches, and for the static tenant panels, those would be 18 inches tall. So a 4-inch difference.
It seems like the scale is appropriate because you don't want to compete with the.
I don't know. I mean, it seemed to me that the one on Tom's is, more prominent. I mean, it looks like it's almost squeezed in there, but I don't know. I don't have a way of comparing it.
You can see the scale people down below, so it's still fairly big letters. Commissioner Mill?
Commissioner Verino pointed out to me here, there's no verbiage in this in regards to removal of the graffiti. Is that just standard, or do we need to add that in the language?
Graffiti removal within 24 hours is a code standard. It applies to all properties in the city, regardless of whether they're conditioned to do so or not.
Any other comments or questions? Or
Just one other comment
Commissioner Butler.
or question. Is the 5 minute, we're saying they have to put 5 minutes of Santa Ana time on that. Is that the same as Tom? Is that what we'd impose?
It's 5% minimum display time. If the applicant
5%, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's 5%. If the applicant voluntarily would like to provide more, they're welcome to do so under the way it's worded. 5% is consistent with, I believe, Tom's or Main Place Mall. One of them may have had a 10% minimum requirement. But 5% amounts to about, I believe, 3 minutes of advertising per minute, divided into 8-second slides.
Are there any other questions for Ali? Do we have any written communication on this? No written communication. I'd like to open the public hearing on this item. Is there any members of the public that has or has not filled out one of these cards would like to speak on this item? Would the applicant like to speak on the item? All right, come on up.
I've not filled out a card.
That's okay if you just tell the.
My
us your
name is
name and
Paul. My name is Paula Halverson. I represent McFadden Place. We've spent a lot of time upgrading the project. I think you'll see it as you drive down the freeway, the upgrades to the buildings and blade signage that we have there. This is kind of the last piece, and it's an important piece because right now the sign is turned off because the electronics we can't repair them. So that's why we've come to you to replace it.
Any questions to the applicant? No, it looks good. Okay.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Looks great, thanks. Since there's no any members of the public that wish to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion and/or motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt a resolution approving Regional Plan Sign Program number 2016-01 as conditioned.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Verino. Okay, so Commissioner Mill and Commissioner Verino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Ally?
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I bring before you conditional use permits 2016-5 and 2016-15 for 305 East 4th Street, Suite 105 for Kiyomizu Restaurant. Philip Kwan is requesting a CUP for a Type 41 ABC license and to allow after-hours operation until 2 o'clock a.m. The property is located within SD 84, as in downtown, and it's completely surrounded by commercial land use. Across the street, they have there's a residential unit above the playground, and there is a city-owned parking lot to the north. This is actually just on the first floor below Native Son Ale House, where Boldo Bowl used to be located. And you can see it's right next to Worst House. The unit itself is a very small unit, only 785 square feet, and the applicant is proposing less than 4% of the floor area to be used for alcohol storage. The seating area, as you can see, is also quite small at 315 square feet once you have the prep area, cooking area, and storage. The applicant would like to be operating have the Type 41 ABC license, and this will provide a complimentary food-related amenity. They will be serving sushi hand rolls and Chinese and Japanese food. This will provide an asset to the community, and they will be serving both lunch and dinner. And we have placed conditions on this project to mitigate any negative impacts. They also would like to open after midnight, which requires a conditional use permit per our city code. And they propose to be open until 2 o'clock, which is consistent with other restaurants in the area. They would also, this provides a benefit to the community in that a restaurant will be open until 2 o'clock a.m. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permits 2016-5 and 2016-15 as conditioned. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any commissioner questions? Commissioner Mill.
Could you please explain for me why, in regards to item number 2, or actually item number 3, we're being asked to authorize the commission to issue a public convenience and necessity letter, but not on item number 2? Not on this particular item? When they're both in the same reporting area?
I don't believe that a PC&N letter is required for after-hours operation.
Oh, they're just asked for the after hours, okay.
Any other questions for Hallie?
Asking for a CUP regarding ABC license.
Can I step in here? Okay. Ivan has provided us some additional information on the ABC letter. Would you like to do that?
ABC requires a PCN letter be submitted by the applicant, not the city. That was something that was recently notified to us, and that's why it still shows on item number 3. But it is up to the applicant to provide that PCN letter for ABC.
On this particular?
Yeah, for any on sale.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bauer?
I have a follow-up question on that. Do we have any indication, or do we know why ABC requests that with one applicant and not another one? Or is
Maybe
that
the
just
type
between
of
the applicant and the ABC, or is it the type? There is, I know, the difference in types here.
Well, if they have, typically they have one license, and they are only issuing one license. It doesn't matter to them whether it's after hours or limited hour, or just the limited hours that we would normally provide. They have one license, they want one letter.
Well, I understand, but back to the question Commissioner Mill requested, why on 3, or did ABC request a PCN letter and not on number 2?
That was left over. That was a mistake from a previous staff report. We did not catch that. That's why. So there is no, that should be removed from the resolution. Thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, thanks, Holly. I'd like to open the public hearing on this item. Does anyone wish to speak that has or has not filled out one of these forms? How about any written communication?
Mr. Chairman, we received a call from Ray Rangel opposing any new liquor licenses.
Any others? That's it? Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to speak? How about the applicant? Is the applicant here? Do you have anything to add, or you want to? Okay. Any questions to the applicant since he's out there?
I had a question.
Yeah, come on up here. She has a question for you.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Philip Kwan, and this is my partner, Leonard.
So I just wanted to clarify, so the reason that you want to be open till 2 a.m., you will be serving food until 2 a.m.?
We want the option to have it. I think in the beginning we're going to probably just do till midnight, but we just want the option just in case in the future.
Okay. But if you stayed open till 2 a.m., you would be serving food until
Correct.
2 a.m.? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions to the applicant? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion and or motion, or both. Any discussion? Motion? Commissioner Bauer, how about you?
I'd like to move that we adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2016-05 to allow a Type 41 ABC license, and adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2016-15 as conditioned to allow business operations until 2 a.m.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. Congratulations. Okay. Thanks. Item number 3. Ivan.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Up for review tonight before you is Mariscos Hector's request for approval of conditional use permit 2016-8 and 2016-9 for the tenant space located at 409 North Broadway. A little bit of description of the project. It's a new alcohol license to allow the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for a proposed downtown restaurant. There's a conditional use permit request for operations until 2 a.m. And applications require approval of respective CUPs to allow the Type 47 ABC license and the after-hours operations. A little bit of the site. It's located on Broadway between 4th Street and 5th Street to the east, and it's surrounded by retail and office uses. This is a site photo of the location. Right next to the palm tree is the main entrance. As you can see, this is a site plan of the unit itself. The tenant has gone through tenant improvements to bring the tenant space up to code. It also included an additional amount of square footage to make the restaurant a little bigger. As you can see in the floor plan, there are several areas where alcohol will be displayed and stored. As you can see on the right, it's the display area near the service counter, bar area, and towards the left is the refrigeration unit and a storage location. Total square footage that will be occupied is less than 5%, 4.88, and it meets the requirements of the code. So the site meets all standards of the Santa Ana Municipal Code. The project will provide additional dining amenity to the residents and visitors. The standards will ensure that the facility remain an eating establishment and not become a nuisance to the surrounding area. And there are also conditions of after-hours operations to help mitigate any potential impacts. And additionally, I'd like to mention that the applicant has submitted for an entertainment permit and is being reviewed by the city and staff, and is contingent on approval of the conditional use permit. And with that, staff would like to recommend approval of conditional use permit number 2016-8 and conditional use permit 2016-9 as conditioned. I'll be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here and available as well.
Any questions for Ivan? Commissioner Verino?
Can I just tap into that last statement you made about the entertainment license?
Yes. Is there a specific question that you had on that?
Just looking at the layout, I'm just wondering what type of entertainment are they proposing? Because it looks like there's not a whole lot of room here for
It says
much
there's a musicians area.
Yeah.
In the layout, there's a
Oh, there is a
musicians
musicians area? Sorry, am I missing it?
So part of the entertainment permit that was submitted to staff is a
I see.
Category 4 entertainment, which allows them to have live entertainment till 2 a.m. There is no proposal for dancing. There is an area shown, it's not a physical stage, but it is an area for musicians to play. That's pretty much that one.
So this small area that says location of musicians, will that be worked out with the entertainment license as far as the number of people that there could be in that area?
For musicians, you mean?
Or do we need to consider that tonight in part of our CUP for the ABC?
No, that's part of the entertainment permit application to show any area where musicians might be located. It also asks for stage areas, but this is not the case here.
And if I'm looking at the rendition right, we have a door opening adjacent to the bar in the front of the location?
Let me go back on that. Towards the middle of the floor plan, the secondary entrance.
Right in front of the bar, down on the bottom section where it says bar. Is that a door opening there?
So that was a door opening. Applicant has decided to close that as part of the improvements, but it also provides an additional ADA compliant entrance and exit towards the south of the unit itself, just a little bit above that. There is a secondary entrance towards the rear of the property there, of the tenant space, and that's something that we've looked at just for building code exits, emergency exits. So that this plan was submitted through tenant improvements and has had a few alterations done to it, but pretty much everything that you see on there will be present.
Could we, if as part of the decision for the CP, could we restrict the hours that they use the exterior entrance for patrons?
Are you referring to the rear secondary entrance? Yes, that is something that we can. Yep.
We did discuss that. We did discuss that with the building department, and they are comfortable with it as long as it's available for egress, for exit. But we can restrict entrance into it during certain hours of the day, if that is your direction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just-
thank you.
Any other
Any
questions?
other questions? Commissioner Bauer?
Ivan, have you seen the comment from Tricia Macris from Macris Floors?
Yes, there was an email correspondence that we received earlier this month.
And she had her her comment was that Mariscos Hector and Standard McFadden had their liquor license revoked for legal procedures. Can you tell me anything about that, or what you know about that?
I'm not familiar with that case. I wasn't part of that conditional use permit or any sort of legal action that was involved with that location. I know that it was on standby for about 30 days, and then it was reinstated. That's as far as I know on that.
Well, don't you, as a part of the procedure, I mean, wouldn't you look at the history of the applicant within the city?
It is our understanding that there will be a different operator at this location, that someone else is another member. It's a family-owned business, and it's another member of the family will be operating this facility as opposed to the operator of the one that had trouble with their ABC license.
Well, it's under the same umbrella, same name. Presumably, it's going to be a similar operation.
It is under the same legal entity, but that may be a question you might want to address to the applicants.
Well, I want to know what we did to investigate what this accusation is here. I mean, isn't it typical procedure that when someone applies and they have a history, that we look at that history?
No, this is a land use decision for you. And in a land use decision, you are granting a right that is going to run with the land. So theoretically, this operator could come in and be operating for a week, sell their business to somebody else, and the business would then continue under the new operator. So your responsibility here is to look at whether or not this use is appropriate in this location. In terms of the permits, the entertainment permit and the alcohol license, at those stages, the issues that are addressed are the individual operators. But we do have that information about how this particular business is going to be run. So, but you have to decide whether in this location, this type of business is going to be an appropriate business, because it will exist whether or not, once you grant this entitlement, it will exist as long as there is a continuous operation of the use, as long as the use doesn't fall for 12 months or a year.
Well, and I understand that. It runs with the land, but I also understand from my standpoint, I want to know the operator's history in assessing this particular request. I mean, how else, if we have a history, and that's your best indicator of how they're going to operate this business. So, and certainly if we have a history where liquor license was revoked, I want to know that information.
No.
And I certainly don't want it coming from
Are you comfortable?
a neighbor. I mean, we had a similar problem with this before.
If I could add, this specific location, the applicant has gone through every requirement needed by the city to establish conditions of approval and operational standards. That if the case be, there are actions that the city can take based on that. There's the after-hours conditions of approval that are listed as conditioned with the staff report. There are operational standards for on-premises sale of alcohol that the applicant will need to follow, as well as, like I mentioned, the entertainment permit operational standards that include a security plan and have to be active at all times. I just wanted to mention that as far as this location here.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
I understand that it's a land use question. I understand that the place has been a restaurant since 1952. We've got all that information. This email was sent in on April 4th. And I think the real question is if there was some kind of impropriety that existed at another location with the same owner, it would be nice to be able to have the information to say, hey, yay or nay, this is not, this is what we found out and this is what's happening. It has no impact on what we're doing as moving forward. That's all. I mean, I think that's the concern that we're trying to relate to. We know it's a land use discussion. We know it's been a restaurant. What's the answer to the concerns that came out of this email that was dated April 4th? We're on April 11th. That's a week ago.
Right. So the concerns that were shown through that email were based on actions that people have been hanging around in the back, causing some sort of nuisance. I can let you know that the restaurant right now, as it is not currently open. If there are activities back there, it's not directly related to the tenants themselves. They have been going through tenant improvements for the last couple of weeks, and so it's not based on the operation of the restaurant, I believe. It just might be other people that are occupying that space.
I believe, in addition, I believe there were three, there was the issue of the activities that were going on in the alley. One of the things that our planning staff did do was look into the possibility of having the access closed to the back door. Now, has the applicant agreed to that condition? And the applicant has agreed to that condition. There will be a security guard present. So, as part of the entertainment permit, and that is a requirement of the entertainment permit. It's not a condition that. It's not a condition. It's a requirement. It's part of their development standards. That would be addressing some of the issues related to both the activities in the alley as well as the activities along the front of the operation, which I believe they were concerned about their windows and things that were going on in the front of the operation. With regard to the question of the operator, it's our understanding that there will be a different individual responsible for this operation. And if that is a concern to you, that it is, if your concern is more with the organization than with the individual, it's your right to ask to continue the item until the next week when we can provide you that information.
Well, we don't have, I mean, because I don't have the information, what she's referencing here. I don't have it before me. I mean, I don't know how to assess this.
That your staff reports were delivered before we received this email. Your staff report, your packets were delivered last week on the 4th, and we had not received this email. It came through however the channels were. So in the interim, we did look into these items of how we could address these issues. And I believe Ivan has tried to describe them to you tonight. So you have, these are the options that you have. We can add as a condition the condition regarding the rear exit, if you would like.
Well, my concern here is that it's more maybe a systemic question or issue that I have. I mean, we ran into this before where there was history that Commissioner Mill knew of personally, and he was able to interject and had some, what I thought was pretty vital information that we didn't as commissioners independently have in the staff report. And what I'd like to see when we have instances like this where there is a relationship, albeit maybe it's more attenuated like you're saying, even if there is a relationship, certainly one that has the same name in a family, I mean, that's pretty close in my mind. Where we have that sort of relationship, I want to see, a history. And certainly if there's a negative history, it's really important to see that.
Well, if that's your direction, then we will apply that in future instances. But on tonight's case, these are the options that we have.
All right, very good.
Vice Chair Mill.
Thank you, sir. I want to concur with Commissioner Bauer. I am concerned in regards to when we have, again, these are just allegations. As far as I'm concerned, someone can send any email and these are an allegation. Someone's alleging that there was. the license revoked. I have no reason to not believe that they're the facts, but I'm looking to you guys to give me the facts. I mean, folks always want to, I hate to use the term NIMBY, but usually folks will throw out all kinds of allegations. I'm looking to you to give me the facts. And I saw this email, we got it a couple days ago, so I figured that we would hear more about that. So that is something that going forward, if clearly sibling A is the owner of one place, sibling B, but clearly they're all part of the same organization, same company name. So I'm assuming that there's probably some kind of relationship between the two. So just going forward, that is something that if there was something of as significant as a revocation because of illegal activities, that's something I think we need to know about. However, we've approved how many liquor licenses downtown? Downtown has been flooded with liquor licenses. Normally we don't, I hear these same complaints about every single liquor license we approve, that there's people loitering after hours, and we don't seem to be too concerned about those concerns. We get an email here, and these folks say, well, another bar. And I think it's unfair to compare this to the Crosby, because this is actually an applicant that has a history of running a business, whereas the folks who we gave carte blanche to at the Crosby had never had any history and clearly didn't know what they were doing when it came to security, as the results we saw what happened there. So I think it's unfair to apply one set of rules to one group, and then we have another set of rules that we apply to others. I personally take the position that we should be very vigilant every time we approve liquor licenses downtown. I think that we should be looking at, be very careful before we do it. But then again, I've lived in the city my entire life, and I know the history of downtown, and I remember how many bars and things we had down there. Folks that haven't been here as long don't remember the problems that we used to have. So I appreciate that my colleagues are wanting to be very vigilant in this matter in regards to Mariscos Hector. I appreciate it. I just wish that we would be so vigilant when we approve all liquor licenses downtown, because all these issues are raised with me all the time. I'm told by business owners down there constantly that the cleanup after a night of partying downtown that they have to do from the neighbors just east of the downtown, the cleanup that they have from the kids that are partying at the establishments down there. But we don't ever seem to take that into consideration when we're looking at liquor licenses downtown. So I just want to say I appreciate the vigilance here, and going forward, I would hope that if there is something as significant as a revocation of someone's liquor license because of illegal procedures, that we could have a little more information in regards to that. Thank you.
Commissioner McLaughlin, you had a question? No, I got answered.
Not really. The question wasn't answered.
Commissioner Marino?
I don't have questions for the applicant, but
my only comment, it is a land use decision. I'm looking at it that way. I agree with both of you that you always want the best possible operator. The trick is you could have the greatest operator, and then it could be sold a week later, as you had mentioned. So what I'm looking at, is it appropriate location for a restaurant? It's been a restaurant there since you said forever. It seems like a great spot. I think the improvements I seem to be seeing going on is definite improvement. When the applicant comes up here, maybe we can ask him those questions. Are there any other questions directly for Ivan from us? In that case, is there any other written communication? We discussed one piece of written communication kind of ahead of time here. Is there anything else besides that? Okay. So I'd like to open up the public hearing. I do have a request from the applicant. Can I save that to last? I just want to have you the opportunity to hear what people have to say, and then you've kind of heard what we have to say. Then you can answer that way. I have looks like Maria Sano. Is that, I got it correct? Cava, okay.
You have a Spanish interpreter.
Do we have an interpreter? Yes. Oh, yeah, one of you guys.
Yes, we do.
Ayúdeme, sí. Gracias. Ok. ¿Qué quiero decir? ¿Verdad? Estoy ahí desde el 1997. Siempre han vendido alcohol y nunca ha pasado nada.
Okay.
Sí.
She basically is letting us know that she's been there since 1997. There's always been alcohol at that location, and there's never been any instances or situations from that location.
Sí.
That's it?
Sí.
Okay.
When she, I have a
could
question.
you ask-
Question? Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Estoy en el 413 North Broadway.
She's a business owner at,
Yes, I am. Yes.
okay. Thank you.
It's not
Ivan?
And before, antes estuve sobre la 4, donde estaba la Fuente Tapatía,
She was on 4th Street before,
donde estaba la Fuente Tapatía.
okay, where the Fuente Tapatia was located.
Ajá. Sí, ahí tenía mi salón y ellos estaban ahí. Nunca pasó nada.
She was located at another location previously, and there was never any situations or circumstances that occurred.
Sí, I've been there in 1987.
So she's been there since 1987.
It's not happy.
In la área?
In el área.
Yeah, she's been in
It's
the
not
area
happy,
since
so happy
1987.
when I'm so happy in Santana. Gracias.
Ivan, what type of business does she?
¿Qué negocio
Unicet, before era Broadway Beauty Salon y ahora es Unicet Beauty Salon.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. I have another speaker card from Manuel Pena.
Congratulations, you wouldn't be who actually pronounced it Peña.
Well, I couldn't read the C versus the S. That was where I had it.
My name is Manuel Peña. I've been in Santa Ana since 1965, almost as much as Sean, except he looks younger than I do. I've had a business downtown since 1980. I've been at the location at 405 North Broadway for the last 11 years. I've seen Los Panchos come and go, a Mexican restaurant. I saw Las Brisas come and go. The only problem I saw was the back area, that parking. And I've seen this new location start, and I'm probably the only guy that goes there every day and has a comment. And I've said, you've got to take care of the back, you've got to take care of the parking, you've got to take care of the security. And they're doing a fine job. They've put in a lot of money. They've dug that building from the ground up. The city has held them, I think, to the highest level of responsibility in making sure that water, light, alarms, cameras, security, the whole thing. I park in the back. There's a parking lot behind on the corner of, it's right behind the flora shop and the State Farm Insurance and another cart business, and I'm upstairs. So I go by there every day, every morning and every day. And I've seen an amazing amount of effort, money, trying to bring that thing up to date. Probably in the history of that building, I think they've done an amazing job for the owner, because they've invested several $100,000. I don't know about any other history. I know that they have one or two other restaurants. I've been there. They're just as clean. And my concerns, I've told them about the parking. And as I understand, the parking is being taken care of, where they're going to have 15 parking spaces in the adjacent area. I would like to see this restaurant go forward. I'm upstairs. I hear them all the time, and I've told them the first time you start to scare my customers away, I'm going to come down and complain. So I have no complaints about them. I don't know about their history. I do know what they've done, and they seem to be very positive in their move forward, and would encourage you to approve their permit. Thank you.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I have a question. Sir, how late are you open in your business?
6:37. I'm an investigator and I do jury recovery, so hours is like I'm there until my business is taken care of.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It looks like this is the applicant, Mr. Olivares.
Good evening. Name's Oscar Olivares. I'm project manager as well as part owner in our Mariscos Hector restaurant. It's family owned, as you guys mentioned. And in regards to any questions you might have, I'm ready to answer them.
Any questions to the applicant? Vice Chair Mill? Bruce?
Well, I think we're probably all dying to know. I mean, have you seen this email from Macris Flores?
It was just brought to my attention as I arrived. So
Because they're making an accusation, and as Mr. Commissioner Mill said, we don't know if it's true, but they've made this accusation that there's other location had its liquor license revoked. What can you say about that?
Yes, that's correct. Our license did get revoked in our number 2 location. And the reason behind that was the fact that basically we had a family friend partaking as a manager there. And he wasn't working with the procedures that we have in place in order for the music to be at a reasonable level. And ABC took issue with that, and that's what ended up happening in those consequences. And as of now, we've let go of that person, and as I've said, I'm on board as project manager of this new location, and I'm planning to take every single step that we need to take in order for us to prevent any sort of noise or make sure that security and everything is in place as it should be.
And does that other location now, it does have its liquor license back?
Yes, it does.
Now, what if Mr. Pena comes down to you and he says the music's too loud? He comes. I know you will, and I'm glad you will.
He may be our best enforcer.
What will you do when Mr. Pena comes down?
If Mr. Pena comes down, and of course we'll resolve it right away and make sure we'll take care of the situation as fast as possible.
All right.
He might roll down there at 2 a.m. too, so we don't know. Any other questions, Commissioner Verino?
On your other locations, do you have entertainment licenses?
Yes,
currently?
We do.
Which locate at the license at the location where your ABC license was revoked? Do you have an entertainment license there?
Yes, we do have an entertainment license.
And I know that it's not open yet, so you can't really anticipate, what's going to happen. So, I mean, there are pretty legitimate concerns here on the dais as far as, that reputation, because you're carrying the same name that the other restaurants have. So I think those are legitimate concerns. My concern is giving you a Type 47 in conjunction with now a pending entertainment license. And would you be willing to rescind the entertainment license if you were to get approval for the 47 for a period of time, let's say 1 year, for us to evaluate the that this is, the best establishment possible. We're not going to have any problems and everything's, just rosy-cozy. Would you be willing to make that concession?
Make the what concession again, sorry?
Not rescind your entertainment license application for a year in lieu of getting your 47, your Type 47. Is the Type 47 more important to you than the entertainment license? Is that something we could ask? We can't?
No.
Or not give them the 47 and have them keep the 41? Or we can't? We can't deny the CUP.
Well, he's applying
based
for
on the
47,
entertainment.
right? Yeah.
Because they already have 41. Or you already have a beer and
Well,
beer and wine.
Actually, they have no use permit for alcohol at this point because it's been closed long enough. So if if you wanted to, if you
Could we
wanted to
approve
look,
a
they're
40,
applying
could
for
we
the
not approve a
47.
47, approve a 41, or is it just,
It has been advertised as a 47. If you were going to say, give them a 47 as opposed to a 41, I would say no, because that is the more intense use. But
Maybe this would be a good, just a suggestion as a discussion item, because some of the items we're questioning the applicant, but some of the other commissioners may not necessarily agree with that question.
okay, well, I get that, but I'm just asking because I just want to see where his,
Well, if I were him, I would just say I wouldn't answer.
How important were those? But I guess I don't have that negotiation available, so.
Right.
But I really do have serious concerns of having a lot entertainment and a type 47 on a restaurant that has no, even just forgo the other restaurants and what's gone on over there. That's a concern as well. But just giving you the benefit of the doubt, this place hasn't been open with your, security and all the things you guys have done, all the money. I appreciate that. I just have a concern that, both those two could be it just could be problematic being in the downtown area. So, but I appreciate all the money that you're putting into it, and I really do. I'll look forward to going there myself. Just trying to figure out what the best options are.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Mill?
I just want to commend you for actually going through the process and doing things the right way and getting the entertainment license, because we have folks downtown now that are currently operating without them. So I want to thank you for actually doing things the right way, coming down here and filing the paperwork the way it's supposed to be done, because we have, like I said, we have folks currently downtown. In fact, I believe that, I may be speaking out of turn, but I think there may not even have been an entertainment permit issued for where there was recently a young man stabbed to death, yet they have entertainment at the venue. So I want to commend you for actually doing things the right way, because I know so many folks that are operating down there basically thumb their noses at the rules, and really nobody's doing anything about it. So thank you for doing things the right way.
Thank you. I would ditto that. I don't have to repeat it. Thank you, Commissioner Mill. Any other questions for the applicant before I bring it back to the commission for the discussion? Okay.
I'd just like to add, we want to just, be part of the downtown family. We want to contribute. We want to be part of the events. And the entertainment is important, and the 47 is important, obviously for business purposes, but mainly the fact that we want to be competitive with the downtown restaurants. We want to succeed. We want to be there for the community and be able to have, the food option of having some good Mexican seafood in your local downtown. So
sounds great. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to add that there is a bit of activity that goes on behind the parking area. And there's a business there called the Bandito, Bandito. They have entertainment on Fridays, Thursdays, sometimes Saturdays. And a little crowd gets together there from the back door. And that might be the crowd that we were talking about, because
could be.
There's a lot of nonsense that goes on. So
I think that's a global
someone should take a look at it.
problem.
If I may, Mr.
Mr.
Pena, if it turns out that business entity is doesn't have an entertainment license, like this gentleman is applying properly, as Commissioner Mill is saying, he's went through the proper channels to get an entertainment permit. Perhaps they do not have one of these. And in that case, you need to report that and make sure you talk to the officer who's here present tonight and talk to them and report that sort of thing, because that is the sort of thing that puts, these honest operators at jeopardy. So please, that's those kind of operators are really bad for everyone's sake.
No, that's a good point. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to bring this back to the commission for discussion and/or motion, or both.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Mill.
I'd like to recommend that we adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit 2016-08 and a resolution approving conditional use permit 2016-09 as conditioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have any further discussion?
I just want to bring a couple things back into
Okay.
play that I think might be helpful. And well, number one, I'd like to bring this back in 6 months. Well, how long will it take them to get their entertainment license? What's a timeline on that?
No, I don't need the mic.
So I don't want to bring it back so soon that we don't have measurable results.
No, I understand. The application for entertainment permit has been submitted and has been deferred for approval until this conditional use permit is approved, since they are applying for a category 4, which allows after hours.
Do you want to condition it with 6 months
So
from the date of their?
Yeah.
It'll be as soon as this,
As soon as this is
active.
certificate of occupancy is approved.
So we could do 6 months from that date.
So I'll change my motion to include that we have a review at 6 months from the issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
And then secondly, I wanted to restrict the patron use on that back door after, let's say, 10 p.m.
I don't know if that was that, were they already restricting that use anyway?
No, that is not in the list of conditions that you have, but staff did propose it and did talk to the applicant about it, and they were willing to comply with that condition.
Now, they could,
So it would be
egress,
it would
they
be
can
a-
egress, but not ingress. They
Well,
can.
I would say it would be after 10 p.m. It should be for employee use only.
Well, it has to, there's a fire.
Well, no, not lock it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying lock it. I just if it's
for
in the
emergency,
condition.
it could be for emergency egress only.
Yeah.
So it could be limited to staff egress.
Because I know
or
the employees will probably
emergency.
have to go back, when they're cleaning up and throw trash
Right,
away.
but it would
and
not be a
access.
public egress.
Correct. 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Yeah, no problem with that. You good with that?
I'm not sure we can limit the public egress.
Yeah, I don't know if I
mean,
wanna
from a
tell them how
fire
to run their
safety
business.
standpoint. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with egress. That's people leaving the place. We don't want that to be used as entry.
I think we have the
And I
6
agree to
months.
that.
I think entry is fine, but exit, if somebody, a patron walks out the back door at 11 o'clock at night, they walked out the back door. The control of that and patrol of that is beyond what's considered reasonable. I mean, it's just not reasonable to say you're going to control the patrons going out the back door.
Well, they have security.
Yeah, but if the security person is in the front of the building and somebody walks out the back door, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, coming in, I can see that. But going out, I don't think we need to restrict that.
Can we inquire of staff? I mean, I know it's comments. Can we inquire of staff? I mean, in terms of egress, I mean, isn't there a fire? I mean, we can't prohibit egress, can we, from a fire safety standpoint?
You could do it for emergency, you could declare that after 10 p.m. it was an emergency exit only. Sometimes you'll see in business.
Alarmed exit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I had in mind. And I'd be agreeable to that. I mean,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So I'll add that to my motion. You're good with that?
second.
And that was after 10 p.m.? Was that
After
the-
10 p.m.
So we have a motion and a second with some amendments, right? Is that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. Okay, good luck. We look forward to being open. Okay. Item number 4. Ricardo.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Up for discussion before you are conditional use permits 2016-10 and 2016-11 to allow an off-premise ABC license and after-hours operation at 3960 South Main Street, Unit A. 7-Eleven is proposing or is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow for an off-premise ABC license and a conditional use permit to allow for the 24-hour operation of a retail market. There's currently an existing retail market located within the center in Unit D, which 7-Eleven is proposing to acquire, rebrand as a 7-Eleven store, and to relocate to Unit A within the same center. Here's an aerial showing the site. It's located on the northwest corner of Sunflower Avenue and Main Street. The property is located in the Arterial Commercial Zoning District and is surrounded by single-family residential uses to the north and west, industrial uses to the east, and agricultural uses to the south in the city of Costa Mesa. Here's the site plan. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the exterior of the building or any increases in square footage. They're proposing to locate in Unit A, which is shown on the west side of the building, shaded, and with a Nate's Deli occupying the tenant space to the west. 7-Eleven is proposing to occupy a approximately 3,000 square foot tenant space, and their alcohol storage and display area is going to be limited to 5% of the gross floor area, which is approximately 150 square feet, and their proposed hours of operation are 24 hours. Here's a site photo as the site exists today. Again, as part of this project, the applicant's not proposing any modifications or expansion to the building. The existing retail market with the Type 21 ABC license is Quick Corner, as you can see there on the left side of the image, and with Nate's Deli currently occupying a tenant space in the center of the building, and the proposed 7-Eleven relocating to where you see Giovanti's Coffee on the eastern portion of the building. The after-hours operation will provide an additional service and convenience to the community. Code applicable standards will ensure that the facility will not become an attractive nuisance, and the proposed use will be in compliance with all regulations, including maximum allowed storage and display area and separation criteria. Based on analysis provided within the report, staff recommends Planning Commission approve conditional use permit numbers 2016-10 and 2016-11 as condition. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Ricardo?
I have one important question. Will Nate's be open during construction?
Nate's will be open. They're going to be relocating and expanding in size a bit.
Okay, that's important.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Do we have any written communication on this particular item? No written communication. This time I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience, including the applicant, that wishes to speak? Are you the applicant or
No, I live
Citizen.
3 houses away from that place.
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Martin Silvar. I live about 3 houses away from that location. I've lived there for about 18 years. I feel the concern here, it's the nuisance that 7-Eleven will bring to the community, to the Sandpoint neighborhood. In addition, every weekend we have street racing down Sunflower, down Main, down Flower Street. And when I call and report that, I get a question, well, what side of the street is it? Sunflower. Nope, that's Costa Mesa. You know, you get that gamble of who you're going to call. The main point is here is that if there's a 7-Eleven, it will bring nuisance, it will promote and bring added racing to the area. So that's where I come in, is where I oppose that, having a 7-Eleven in that corner.
Okay.
Pretty much it.
Okay.
Any other questions I could answer?
Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak?
Good evening. I haven't filled out a card yet. I'm the applicant, Mike McFarland, representing 7-Eleven. Just wanted to thank staff for their time and helping with this project. Been very helpful and getting this project going. Feel this is a great location for 7-Eleven. Going to be successful there. If you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions for the applicant from Commissioners? Commissioner Bauer?
I know 7-Eleven at all their locations, they don't sell alcohol, is that right?
That is correct. Most do, but not all of them.
Oh, is
correct.
it, that's what I was going to ask, the percentage, what's the percentage?
That I don't know. There's a representative from 7-Eleven, but that information we don't know.
And what's that basis? Is it just based on sort of square footage, the demographics of the population? How do you make that determination? Just curious.
You know, it's on a case-by-case basis, and I haven't worked on any projects where we have not had alcohol approved, so it's on a case-by-case basis. It's very limited, though.
Any other questions? Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishes to speak? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion, a motion, etc. Commissioner Verino.
I'd just like to ask if they're regarding the allegations of the street racing on Sunflower and/or Main Street. If there's anything that we could do, we could just recommend to Santa Ana PD that if we could increase enforcement there, or is there anything we can do? I mean, I could understand the residents' concern because I could see that if they called and they're racing on Sunflower, they could say, oh, well, that's Costa Mesa. And then you're in this, is it theirs or ours, and that situation. I don't think this application is going to, I don't feel that this is going to increase or decrease that situation, but it is a legitimate concern from the enforcement or public safety side of it. Is there anything we can recommend to PD?
We can communicate that it is a problem to the police department. And I'm not sure it was on weekends, right? It was on Friday and Saturday nights?
It starts Friday night and then you go off for a few several hours.
Friday night, okay. All right.
Predominantly late or early morning hours? Or?
It kicks off as early as 9 at night and it could end at 3 because the cars zooming throughout the streets. I mean, my backyard is, Sunflower is my backyard, so I hear them real close.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Do we have any further discussion and/or motion? In that case, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve conditional use permit number 2016-10 and conditional use permit number 2016-11. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. Okay, congratulations. So, item number 5. Vince.
Good evening. Give me 1 second here. I believe this is it. Yes, here we go. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. Happy Monday to you all. The project here before you is a proposal by the Olson Company to build a project at First and Pacific, the southwest corner. And we call it the First and Pacific Townhome Development. It doesn't have a name right now, but I'm sure there'll be one shortly. They have 3 actions before you: a general plan amendment, a zone change, and a track map. And their project address range is 1506 to 1548 First Street. A little brief description here for you. It's a 62-unit project, 62-unit townhomes, 3-level townhomes, garages and living space on the ground floor, and then 2 levels of living space above. You're looking at 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units that range in square footage from 1,300 up to 2,100 square feet. And they've got about 2.2 spaces per unit. Each unit will have a 2-car garage at a minimum, plus there'll be some guest parking spaces. They also have some on-site amenities, such as some open spaces, as well as a community building that's going to be posed there at the near the corner of First and Pacific. So again, as I mentioned here, we have 3 different actions before you this evening: the general plan amendment from commercial to urban neighborhood, approval of a zone change from the general commercial and also has a little bit of residential over to an SD and then a tract map to allow these units to be available for sale, and they'll be market rate housing. And then we also have a mitigated negative declaration as part of your packet as well. Here's the site here for you, a little aerial. The red area is the project site, the 62-unit project. The blue area in the center, that 6,000 square foot lot, that's also part of the zone change general plan amendment as well. So the project will be only in red, but again, the whole zone change in GPA will be the entire action there, kind of pre-zoning and pre-general planning that site for future use. Surrounded by a combination of commercial and residential uses on all four sides. Here's a site photo of a couple of buildings. As you can imagine, that's too long to get them all in there. But the old bakery site on the corner of First and Pacific, I think it's Wonder Bread Bakery. It had been vacant for several years. That's right there on the left. Then you have a church there in just the left center. Then you have a single-family house right there in the center. Then on the right was a two-story motel that caught fire and got torn down recently. Here's your site and landscape plan. As you can see here, the units are clustered around courtyards. The units fronting on Pacific and Walnut are going to be facing the streets. They're going to have these nice little entries. They'll be activating the streets, and they'll be separated from the public ground by either little courts or little porches. So that's your site plan there. And there's some elevations for you to look at here. The upper one there is what you see as partial of First Street renderings there, facing First Street. And then you have some other side renderings. Those are just a couple that you can find in your packet. So the analysis of the project, again, they need a general plan amendment for the changes of zoning, or the general plan, as well as the zoning and the tract map, as well as actions before you this evening. Project has been designed to conform to what we have, the harbor provisions, which is this is type of a corridor type of development. So we adopted those harbor standards a couple of years ago. This has been designed to meet most of those provisions. The architecture and frontage types are going to complement that First and Walnut Street. As I mentioned, they're going to activate the streets. They're going to face those streets and have a nice, strong street presence. They got a variety of open spaces there. They have courtyards. They have that community room, which we're looking at different options for the site. We discussed various options. We discussed commercial, community spaces, other rec spaces, and what we landed on was a community room that would benefit the community. They can use it for their meetings, for their activities within that project site. So they have that community room as well as a little outdoor courtyard area. And then the key, last but not least, is this project is really going to revitalize this major arterial corridor. Again, these buildings have been vacant for several years. This portion of First Street is really lacking some investment, and this project is the first, so we hope there's many types of reinvestments in the area there. It's also going to be consistent with what we're looking to do with a general plan update. I think you've had that presentation before. We're looking to really rezone and general plan some of our corridors to allow more mixed-use types of projects. And so this really fits right in with what our vision is for the corridor. And with that, because it's a zone change in GPA, it has to go to City Council for public hearing. So your action tonight is to recommend that the Council approve the general plan amendment, the zoning, and then a tract map. So that concludes my presentation. Sandy Gottlieb from the Olson Companies. Is it Sandy or John? It's going to be Sandy Gottlieb here. She'd like to give you a little brief presentation, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, with your approval.
Sure.
She'll kind of get in a little more details of the project, and then both of us will be available for any questions you may have. Or I can answer questions now. I'm not
Do
sure.
you have any questions specifically for Vince before Sandy gets up here? Or just you do?
Yeah. Is this going to encompass past the restaurant, or is that little restaurant?
No, it stops
there?
right at
It
the
stops
restaurant.
right there at that?
Yes, I can show you the aerial. Yeah, that little Mexican restaurant
Oh,
is
yeah.
right. Follow the cursor. If I can find, here we go.
Okay.
It's just right there, small piece.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, Commissioner Bauer.
Oh, going back to the aerial.
I certainly will. Sorry about that.
What's the story with that little parcel?
That little parcel, Olson Companies can give you a little more background on that, but they've outreached to the neighbors, and they've tried to acquire that, and they've had some plans. We've used John Kaliski to help draw some plans to some future development out there, and we have a plan that could work. They just want to stay in place. So we went out there and met with them, sent them notices. We met with them and had a discussion last week with them. They're okay with the project going on around them, but at this time, they're just not in a desire to sell. And so the zoning document before you recognizes their existence, and we're not going to affect them at all.
What is that location?
It's a house, single-family house. A house and a detached garage.
Okay.
So it's residential.
It's residential, right, which is not permitted in that corridor. So right now they're legal non-conforming. They're going to remain legal non-conforming. They'll be able to stay there as long as they'd like. So it's more of a pre-zoning action, which makes some sense for us to capture it all.
Any other Vince questions? Commissioner McLaughlin?
Yeah, just again, last week we had a discussion about a project that was on the east side at First, and now we're talking about another project on the west side at First, and we continue to refer to, well, it's similar to the Harbor Corridor or this. Can we, is there going to be a point in time where we're going to get a plan for First Street, east, west, all boundaries? Are we going to get a plan that we can, instead of doing this spot change in the zoning, let's get something where we can, see a trend, a blend, and everything else within the street?
Sure. Yes, that's part of our general plan update, which we're undertaking right now. It's again about 18 and 24 months away. The option is we put development projects on hold and we'll leave these corridors in their state for up to 2 years or longer.
Not recommending that.
And that's why
we.
Yes, right.
I'm just trying to get a feel for when we're going to have something that we can turn around, because each and every one of these now requires a vote at council level and everything else, and that's just another task that's being put on there. If we had this as a strategy, you wouldn't have to go through that routine.
Sure. Yeah, Bernie Carval and his team have been working on it. We're in the early stages of the whole update. It's about 18, 24 months down the road. So we do have a plan. We have a visioning plan. It's online. We presented to you before that, taking a look at what we're looking to do. So we are following that vision plan. So these projects that you're getting before you are consistent with that plan. So it's just time.
Any other questions for Vince before we get Sandy up here? Okay.
Thank you. Sandy?
Great. Good evening, Chairman Gartner and members of the Planning Commission. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here this evening to present our project for your consideration. I do want to thank those of you who were able to join me at the site so that I could better present our vision in terms of the context of the surrounding area. I also want to thank staff who has been just great to work with. It's almost been a 2-year process at this point. They have provided valuable input and guidance through the process, so it's been a very collaborative process with both the city staff and the community. We are hopeful that we will actually receive your recommendation for approval this evening so we can move forward with bringing this home ownership opportunity to the city, and especially this area of the city. As Vince had mentioned, it has had very little, if any, development or revitalization activity for many years, and in particular, any home ownership opportunities. What I'm going to do, and feel free to buzz me or light me up here if I take too long, I'll try and be as brief as possible. I know Vince has covered a lot of material, and a lot of material is in your staff report. I do just want to go through some brief background on Olson and our vision for the site. We have actually an award-winning design team. I'm not going to introduce them all, but our consultants are all here tonight if you have any questions. We focus on building high-quality infill homes. Thus, this area of Santa Ana is an area where we wanted to focus on. And what's unique about Olson, we're ranked number 1 in the nation in customer service for the 3rd year in a row on the Alliance survey. A major reason for that is we actually stay involved in our communities, which I think is important in terms of maintaining the quality of our projects, as well as being a good neighbor to the surrounding community. We call it the Champions Program, and one of our associates sits on every homeowners association board for 10 years or more in all of our communities. We've had an extensive community outreach process, and I show up there for formal community meetings, but I've had ongoing conversations and discussions with the several community members who have come out to our meetings. Again, it's been a real collaborative effort with the city and the community in terms of how the plan has evolved. Those of you not as familiar with the site, I can flip through this real quick unless you're interested. It just give some photos in terms of the surrounding context, and I can come back to that if you'd like. In terms of site planning considerations, some Vince had touched on, I do want to emphasize, again, what we're trying to do is be sensitive to the surrounding uses in terms of our design, architecture, and connectivity with the surrounding community. Units front on Walnut, units front on Pacific. This was very important to both the city and the community as we did our outreach, as was inclusion of a community room for the residents. Just on the design vision, I just want to hit on the last 2 points, which I think are very important. We have a series of very usable open spaces where folks can gather and have activities. We have the centralized courtyards and that community building, which actually has a patio extending out where there's going to be an outdoor barbecue, and there's going to be actually a kitchenette on the inside of the community room, so they can use it for activities as well as have the kitchen in there and have functions focusing in that community room. The open space area, and this is a key item too that was important to the city and the community, our open space areas are private to our residents, but also, especially on the First Street frontage, we have open public views that engage the public realm in that area. Just to kind of wrap it up here, and then we'll be available for any questions you might have. There's some significant community benefits associated with our project. 62 for-sale homes, helps with the RENA goals, which I believe require a little over 400 units. So this goes toward meeting that goal. Per the inclusionary housing ordinance, we made a commitment to not just pay the in lieu fee, but provide the units on site. So we are, and I'm not sure if there's any other projects coming up that are doing that, so that is quite significant. We're maintaining that commitment. 9 affordable units will be provided on site. It's consistent with many general plan and housing goals and objectives. Repurposing of a vacant, underutilized property that actually has been burdening the city services due to vagrancy and other code enforcement issues. Reinvigoration of a neighborhood with attractive for-sale residential community. And we calculated there's about $1.2 million in impact fees that we are paying to parks, schools, etc. And in addition, there's another $1 million in government fees that are going into this in terms of permits, plan checks, etc. So quite a significant contribution there. We're also dedicating some land for the future widening of First Street. Our timeline is that if we're able to get recommendation for approval this evening, move on to City Council in May, we hope to be grading by September and actually have a grand opening in April 2017, followed by first closings of our first phase of units in June of 2017. And I just did want to close, I think this says it better than I could ever say. An individual, Samuel Vance, a neighbor on Pine Street, who's been coming to the meetings and been in touch with me all along, wrote an email. I'm not sure if it's in the public record or not, but he's made it available for that. And I just want to read an excerpt from that because he says it better than I can or anyone can, being in the area. What he says is, having first moved to this community in 1969, I've seen many changes. Many of them have been quite negative. I used to think about how nice it would be for the Walnut Apartments to go condo. Never did I ever consider an entirely new development there, though. This goes past my wildest dreams, and when viewed as a complement to the $88 million Bristol project, it is just stunning. Not only do we need this development, but we need to study its progress and view it as a prototype for Santa Ana's revitalization. With that, I'm done unless you have any questions of myself or my team. Thank you.
Any questions in the commission? Commissioner Mill?
I just wanted to commend you for, one, building the affordable units on site. I think that's pretty much what most of us envisioned would happen when that ordinance was passed. And most folks, as you point out, usually pay the in lieu fee, but it's nice to see that you're actually building them on site. And I think it's great that you're going to revitalize that part of town. It's so in desperate need. I've watched it slowly deteriorate over the years, and to see something new and clean, I think it'll breathe life into that community. I think a lot of folks have a sense of, I don't want to use despair, but despair when they look at their community and everything is crumbling around them. And there's, as the gentleman pointed out, we have gangs, and we have I mean, El Toro Market behind there, as we discussed the things that go on behind the market, the drugs and whatnot. But to see something like this come into the area is going to send a message to the folks that are coming into our city and doing bad things that, hey, we're not going to allow it. We're going to grow and improve in spite of the problems. And I think this is just going to be the beginning of a revitalization of that area. And I want to thank you for stepping out and doing that.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No.
I ditto what Sean said.
Yeah, I did owe Sean as well.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other written communications that we've received? Okay. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak that may have filled out a form or not? I'll read off the list. Did you fill out one of these by any chance? Okay.
Happy to.
Go ahead, then I'll go on the next group here.
My name is William Hugen. I represent the owners of the property, and I hope that recommending that the Planning Commission recommend this project. It would be bring quality housing to the area. The project has been, the site has been a problem with graffiti and people breaking into the commercial building there, and I think it'll add commercial activity to the area. I have recently spoke to the owner of the home in the middle and again approached him to sell the property. He is absolutely adamant, does not want to sell, and he's totally okay with the development going around him. So many attempts have been made to approach him to sell his house, and he's not willing to do it.
Any questions from the commissioners? No.
Just to say that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but looks like you worked around it well. I think you guys, it looks like even when eventually I do sell, it looks like you could connect it easily. So, I have a speaker card from John Reekston. Is it? No, you're good. Okay, we'll toss it there. Okay, Peter Gambino.
I'm a consultant to help you also, so I'm just available for any questions.
Okay, all right. Peter Duarte? Same deal? Yeah. Sandy did such a good job, you guys don't have to say anything. Sandy, you already, I got yours here. Diane Gaffin, it looks like? Same deal? All right, well, that was easy, thanks. Any other members of the public that wish to speak that I haven't filled out a card? Yes, sir?
I didn't fill out.
That's all right, come on up.
I didn't know that fill out a card. First time that I come here. So the only concern on that is that my name is Jose Francisco Diaz, and I live in the area. And the only concern is parking, because the apartments or condos that we have that were built on Bristol and Pacific, Civic Center, between Bristol and Pacific, the approach was similar back when they were built. But what we have now, it's problems with parking. And what I foresee, unless these townhomes are going to be like, I don't know what the price range is going to be. In the long term, it's going to cause the same thing that it's causing right now in the area that I mentioned before, because all the parking, the residents that live in those units have more vehicles than they can garage in the units, parkings, right? So the overflow goes into the residents. So what happened is that we ended up not having a space to park our cars
in the residence area. So that would be the only concern. My only concern on this. But like I said, I don't know if it's going to be what the price range is going to be. It's probably going to be out of range for certain individuals to afford it. But if it's going to be something that is going to cause the same thing within 5 or 10 years, that's what's happened right now. It's because Santa Ana is not getting any smaller. We already have a very dense population. So most of the residents, even in houses, they have 20 years ago they have probably two cars. Now kids have grown. They got 5 or 6, or they're renting out rooms. So parking is going to be really bad. So that would be the only concern, and that's that parking in the long term. So are they thinking about, when they do the design, are they designing this in taking that into consideration, that they're going to build carports plus parking spaces available for in the future? That would be the only concern.
Well, there is proper parking's been provided, and guest parking per the municipal code. I don't know, Vince, you can add anything to that, but it has been provided correctly.
Right. Parking is a concern of ours, always is with these developments. I mentioned the harbor standards. Actually, harbor standards is under 2 spaces per unit. This is at 2.2, so we've gone above and beyond what even the harbor requires. We've done a lot of studies, looked at other projects around not only our city, other cities, and 2.2 seems to be around what these types of projects require. So that's what we require for this project. Again, 2-car garage for each unit, a minimum, plus some guest parking as well.
But I don't know if I'm missing the point here. But like I said, it's the apartments are built for that, like 2.2, right? But the concern is in the future, 5, 10 years.
Well, it's hard to predict what people may have. You're right, but
But with what we've seen in Santa Ana, we haven't seen a decrease of population. On the other hand, we have seen an increase, and you're talking about residents that are counted as residents of Santa Ana, plus the surplus of individuals who are renting out. So that would be the concern. Like I said, it's right now it's okay, but it's in the future. It's within 5 years, and that's what we've seen right now. But the problem, when the apartments were built on Civic Center, it was okay for 5, 10 years, right? But right now, it's a problem, and that's something that would be the only concern. That would be the only concern, that if you guys have taken into consideration adding more spaces, for that matter.
Yeah, I don't think they've designed it per the city standards. I don't think they've added beyond that. There wouldn't be any. There's no way to predict, to add beyond it. That's the only thing. So.
I understand that.
That's why why. So it's not underparked. It's parked adequately for the amount of units. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's hard to.
Yeah, right. My point is not that you guys are constructing that it's something that is under, but right now, okay. But like I said, we're facing in different areas of Santa Ana that problem, that whenever there are apartment units, condos, townhomes, that might not be the case. But we have seen that overflow of individuals who live on those apartments or condos flowing into the residence area.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay. Any questions for anybody? Okay. Is anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak that may or may not have filled out a card? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commissioners for a motion, discussion, or both. Commissioner O'Laughlin.
I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigated monitoring report, environmental review number 2015-9, adopt the resolution approving the general plan amendment number 2016-02, adopt an ordinance approving the amendment application number 2016-03, 02, and adopt a resolution approving tentative track map number 2016-02 as conditioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Before we take a vote, I just want to say that it's a beautiful project, and I'm thrilled to be part of it.
It's a great project.
Great project. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, with Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra absent. That ends our business calendar. We have a work study session that I believe is going to be moved. Is that correct? To the next meeting?
Yes, we had a request from
Commissioner Becerra to move it.
Commissioner Becerra, because he could not be here to continue it, and because of the number of items on this agenda, it seemed prudent to.
Yeah, given the length of
comply.
this agenda, I think that sounded like a good idea. Everybody, all in favor of that? Aye. Okay. Okay. Yeah, yes, I know. Okay. Excused absences. Do we have we need to excuse the absence of Commissioner Alderetti and Commissioner Becerra.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Planning manager updates.
The first item of my updates is I would like to introduce to you two of our new senior planners sitting in the front row. Jill Arabi is in the white jacket, and next to her is sitting Ali Peshkapur. So,
see, I called you correctly when I said senior. When you said your peers, that's great.
We're very, very glad to have them with us. The second item that I wanted to talk about was Commissioner Gominski, a follow-up on requested by Commissioner McLaughlin last week regarding Commissioner Gominski's reference to a report on 2015 adult entertainment permits. That we did talk to the police department, and it has not been updated as yet, and they did not have an idea on when it would be available. So we will check back with them. They do know that we are still interested in receiving it, and we'll present it to you when it is available. The third item I needed to talk to you about was the request for city email addresses. I did investigate that. We do not have a policy on it per se. It was discussed at the management level here, at the executive team management level, and there was a general consensus that at this point, because we did not have a policy on it, they did not want to issue city email addresses. None of the other commissions have it. They didn't want to start a precedent at this time. I know this is a concern of yours, Commissioner McLaughlin, and if you would like to take it further, and the rest of your commissioners would like to take that further as well, we can agendize it for a discussion topic, and you can decide as a body whether or not you would like for staff to present a request to management for city email addresses. So that's something, the discussion, I guess, the response to you would be that we would have for you tonight, the request that we would have for you tonight to respond to would be whether or not you would like us to agendize that item.
Does anybody wish that to be agendized?
Yes, I do. I mean, the fact that there's not a policy at this point in time makes sense, because it wasn't a concern maybe a couple months ago or something. Now it's become a concern because of legal matters that have occurred in the state of California. And since we now have that concern, I think we have to address policy. And I think we have to address it from the standpoint of saying, how do we, since we have this legal concern that our personal email addresses can be requested as public document, as public, documentation, I think we need to have some way to protect that. So I understand that maybe no other commission has had that concern. That's fine. But I think it is a concern that other commissions should be aware of, and it applies to all the other commissions. And again, I don't see it as a very significant policy change that has to occur, because it exists in many other public entities.
So what we will agendize next week would be a discussion of the Planning Commission and requests for direction to staff on whether or not to present a request to the city for city email addresses.
Okay.
I'm fine with having a discussion.
Any other comments from?
No, that concludes
your
staff's
area over there?
comments.
Okay. Lisa, anything? Okay. I'll bring it to the planning commissioners. Commissioner Reno?
No comments, just welcome, Jill. And congrats, Ali.
Vice Chair Mill? Commissioner McLaughlin? Commissioner Bauer?
Welcome aboard. And congratulations, Ollie, to the promotion, I assume. That's a promotion, right?
Yes, Jill, welcome aboard, and Ali is a pleasure to work with, as I've worked with him professionally. He's a stellar man, so you'll do well having a guy to hang with, so that's great. So congratulations.
I should also, before we conclude, I did forget, we have a third senior planner, and that is Melanie McCann.
Oh, all right. Great. Anything else? In that case, we're adjourned.